I stared at my credit card statement, my hands trembling slightly as my eyes scanned the absurd numbers printed in black and white. $29,763.84. Almost $30,000 gone, vanished, stolen. My birthday was next week. I had planned to take a few days off work, maybe even fly somewhere warm for once. I hadn't had a real vacation in years, but now my entire savings cushion was obliterated overnight. I immediately called the bank to dispute the charges, hoping it was some elaborate fraud, a hacker maybe. But as the lady on the other end politely explained, the charges had been authorized by me, at least according to the signatures and PIN verification. Except I hadn't bought anything. I paced the living room of my small apartment, my heart pounding with rage and confusion, and then it hit me. Only two people had access to my information, my parents. I grabbed my phone and dialed. My father answered after 2 rings, his voice unusually casual. "Hey son, everything okay?" I clenched my jaw. "My credit card is maxed out, Dad. Almost $30,000. Do you know anything about that?" There was a pause, a heavy, suffocating pause. "Well," he finally said, his tone suddenly defensive, "the family needed it more. You'll be fine. You're doing well enough, aren't you? You make good money." I could feel my blood boiling. "You used my credit card?" "It's not like that," he snapped, his voice raising. "You always act like your money is just yours. We're family. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made." Before I could respond, I heard my mother's voice in the background. She laughed like it was all one big joke. "And honestly, you don't need a fancy birthday trip. We had better plans for that money. You can celebrate alone this year." The world seemed to tilt sideways for a moment. My breath came in short, shallow bursts. I had worked 2 jobs through college, saved religiously, skipped nights out, vacations, new clothes, and now this. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat and forced my voice to remain calm. "Then, don't ever call me again." Before my father could spit out another entitled excuse, I ended the call. That night, as the city lights blinked through my window, I sat at my laptop, opening every account they never thought I'd touch. The joint mortgage I'd co-signed, canceled. The truck loan I co-guaranteed for my father, terminated. My mother's personal line of credit tied to my name, erased. I did it all in silence. No fights, no explanations, just cold, calculated clicks. It wasn't about revenge. It was finally about drawing a line I should have drawn years ago. They wanted to see what life without me looked like. They were about to find out, not out of cruelty, but because enabling them had nearly broken me. You probably wonder how I even got here, how a grown man with a stable career ended up being milked dry by his own family. It didn't happen overnight. That's the sick part. They were patient, strategic. From the moment I landed my first real job, entry-level finance, fresh out of college, my parents saw it as their victory. "We sacrificed everything for you." My father reminded me constantly, "You owe us. Without us, you wouldn't even have that degree." My mother would chime in, "All we're asking is a little help." You know, family helping family. At first it was small things. A few hundred here to help with the house taxes. A few thousand there to cover my sister's unexpected dental surgery. Dad's old truck broke down. Could I co-sign for a new one? Mom's credit card was maxed, just temporarily, of course. I told myself it was fine. Temporary. They raised me after all. It's what good sons do, right? But temporary became permanent. Before long, my father outright expected me to cover their mortgage shortfalls. My mother stopped even pretending she'd pay me back. My younger sister, Madison, the golden child, quit her job entirely to find herself and pursue creative passions while I quietly picked up her student loan payments to keep her credit from imploding. "You make 6 figures, my mother once said, waving her hand like it was nothing. "We're not asking for much." 6 figures, yes. But after taxes, rent, and their endless emergencies, my bank account looked like it belonged to a fast food cashier. I watched my friends buy homes, invest, travel. I stayed in my cramped apartment, eating takeout and pretending I was building a future while draining myself for theirs. Then came the worst of it. 2 years ago, my father lost his job after being caught embezzling funds from his company, something I only learned about after I had already loaned him nearly $40,000 to bridge a rough patch. "It's just temporary, son," he promised back then, his voice thick with fake humility. "Once I'm back on my feet, I'll pay you back in full." He never got back on his feet. Instead, he and my mother doubled down on bleeding me dry. Using my name on loan credit cards without even telling me. Forging signatures, sweet-talking bank managers, whispering, "Swalster, our son will cover it if anything goes wrong." And Madison, she played her role perfectly, the helpless princess. New iPhones, luxury spa retreats, yoga teacher training programs, all charged to my accounts with fake smiles and empty promises. "I'll pay you back when my influencer career takes off. Just be patient, okay?" Every time I tried to set boundaries, I was met with their usual weapons, guilt and shame. "Do you want your father to lose the house? How can you be so selfish when your sister's mental health depends on this retreat? After everything we've done for you, you've changed. Money has made you cold." The breaking point came last month. I finally said no when my mother asked me to cover a $15,000 business loan for Madison's boyfriend, some deadbeat who called himself an entrepreneur but couldn't hold a job longer than 3 months. My father exploded. "You're ruining this family," he screamed across the dinner table. "What kind of son are you?" My mother started crying on cue. Madison stormed upstairs, slamming doors like some wounded teenager. She's 26. I sat there stone-faced. Not a word. Not anymore. Because that night after they went to bed, I checked my credit account and saw the $30,000 charge sitting there waiting to swallow me whole. They hadn't even asked. They just helped themselves. I knew the explosion was coming. I just didn't expect it to come this fast or this ugly. The morning after I canceled everything, my phone started vibrating nonstop. 27 missed calls, 15 voicemails, and the texts, hundreds of them. some pleading, some cursing, some pure venomous rage. By noon, they were waiting for me. When I pulled into the parking lot after work, my parents and Madison were standing by the entrance to my building like a pack of wolves. My father's face was already purple with fury. My mother's cheeks streaked with crocodile tears. Madison had her arms crossed, radiating pure entitlement. I barely had time to close my car door before my father stormed over, finger jabbing the air like a weapon. "What did you do?" he bellowed, spit flying. "You destroyed us, you selfish fool." I didn't flinch. "Not this time. I protected myself," I said coldly. "Something none of you ever bothered to do for me." "The bank called this morning," he shouted. "The mortgage is frozen. The truck's been repossessed. Your mother's credit cards are locked. What gives you the right?" "The right," I sneered. "You stole from me, forged my name on loans, maxed out my credit cards, I spent years covering for your mistakes. Now you can deal with the consequences." "We're family," my mother shrieked. "How can you do this to your own parents?" Her voice cracked like glass, but her eyes were still cold and manipulative, the same eyes that had guilt-tripped me my entire life. "Family doesn't steal," I snapped. "Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use me like an ATM machine." Madison finally jumped in, her voice dripping with condescension. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You're being so dramatic. You make good money. You weren't even using most of that credit. We just needed a little help." $30,000 in a little help, I roared, my voice echoing off the building. "You drained my savings. You destroyed my credit. You took my future and handed it to yourselves like I owed you my entire life." I wasn't angry. I was exhausted. And I finally said it out loud. Madison rolled her eyes like a spoiled teenager denied a toy. "God, you act like you're some saint. You wouldn't even have that job if Dad hadn't pushed you. We gave you everything." "No," I growled. "You took everything, and I let you. But not anymore." My father took a step closer, his face inches from mine now. His voice dropped into a low, dangerous growl. "You think you're better than us now? You think you're too good for your family? You're nothing without us. You'll regret this." "No," I said calmly. "The only thing I regret is not cutting you off sooner." His face contorted, veins bulging at his temples. "You owe us. We gave you life, and you spend it like it was your bank account." "I worked 2 jobs through college while Madison took spa trips," I shot back. "I lived in a shoebox while you bought Dad his 3rd truck. Every time I got ahead, you found new ways to pull me back down. Enough." My mother's voice was suddenly shrill, hysterical. "We're your parents. You're supposed to take care of us." "I'm not your retirement plan," I said, my voice cold as steel. "I'm not your bailout. I'm not your slave." The neighbors were starting to gather now, heads peeking from windows, doors slightly ajar, curious faces watching the family meltdown unfold in broad daylight. And then, like clockwork, came the final act, the manipulation. My mother fell her knees on the concrete, sobbing loudly for maximum performance. "Please," she wailed. "If you walk away, we'll lose everything. The house, Dad's health, Madison will be homeless." "Then maybe Madison should get a job," I said bluntly. "Maybe Dad should stop living beyond his means. And maybe you should finally take responsibility for the mess you created." "You heartless monster," Madison screamed. "We are your family. We need you." I shook my head, looking at them, really looking for the first time. "No, you don't need me. You need my money. You need my credit. You need someone to clean up after your endless failures. But you never needed me. You never even saw me as a person, only as a wallet." My father lunged forward, his voice cracking under the weight of his fury. "We made you." "No," I said softly. "You broke me. But I finally put myself back together without you." And then I delivered the final blow. "Don't ever call me again. Don't knock on my door. Don't text me. Don't pretend we're family. Because as far as I'm concerned, you never were." The silence after those words was deafening. For a moment, all 3 of them just stood there blinking, like I'd spoken in a foreign language they couldn't comprehend. And then I turned, walked past them, and entered my building, leaving them standing in the parking lot, humiliated, powerless, and finally cut off. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without nightmares. I was free. I thought the storm had peaked that day in the parking lot. I was wrong. That was just the beginning. Once I cut them off financially, their entire house of cards collapsed almost overnight. Within 4 days, the mortgage company froze my parents' loan after my name was pulled from the paperwork. The payments they hadn't been making for months finally triggered full default. By the end of the week, they received an official foreclosure notice. My childhood home, the one they weaponized for years as a symbol of family sacrifice, was scheduled for auction in less than 60 days. I didn't even have to lift a finger. The system took care of it for me. The truck my father adored, that $70,000 oversized beast he couldn't live without, disappeared at dawn one morning. The tow truck came quietly. The repo guy barely looked him in the eye, while my father raged barefoot on the driveway in his stained bathrobe. "You can't take my truck!" my father screamed, as if his shouting would erase the debt. But there was nothing left to save him. By week 2, my mother's phone calls had shifted from rage to hysteria. "We're gonna lose everything," she sobbed on voicemail after I stopped answering her desperate calls. "Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Your sister has nowhere to go. What kind of son lets this happen?" I deleted every message without listening past the first sentence. Then Madison showed up. I knew she would. She looked different, thinner, paler, the designer bags under her eyes matching the fake designer purse swinging uselessly off her arm. Gone was the smug entitlement. Now there was only desperation. "Please," she begged, standing at my front door, mascara running down her cheeks like smeared war paint. "You can't just abandon us. You know how bad it's gotten." I didn't say a word. "You know, I was just following Mom and Dad," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for things to go this far, but I'm your sister. Please, just for a little while." I looked at her for several long seconds, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing. No pity, no guilt, no sense of obligation. "I'm done, Madison," I said flatly. "Go home, if you still have one." "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're my brother." "No," I said, my voice cold as iron. "I was your bank, and I'm closed." Security removed her 15 minutes later. She tried again. Texts, DMs, voice messages full of sobbing, cursing, bargaining. She even sent distant relatives after me, begging on her behalf. "Just help them get back on their feet. They're still your family. You're being cruel." Cruel was draining every cent from my accounts while smiling in my face. Cruel was forging my signature behind my back. Cruel was laughing while I skipped birthdays, vacations, and relationships to fix their endless mistakes. Let them face their consequences. By the end of the month, their perfect world was gone. They moved into a cheap 2-bedroom apartment across town, far away from the suburban paradise they'd once lorded over everyone. The eviction was public. The neighbors whispered. The friends vanished. My father lost what was left of his fragile ego. The man who once barked orders like a king now slumped through part-time handyman work to barely cover rent. His blood pressure skyrocketed. His health spiraled fast without the medications he could no longer afford. Mom tried to keep up appearances for a while, posting old photos on Facebook, pretending everything was fine. But even the fake smiles cracked quickly. The debt collectors never stopped calling. Madison's influencer dreams imploded completely. Without my money feeding her carefully curated lifestyle, her audience fled. She bounced from couch to couch, freeloading off shallow friendships that eroded the second she couldn't pay for brunch or cover shared rent. One day, she tried reaching me through an old friend. "She's in bad shape, man," my friend said, clearly uncomfortable. "She's practically homeless. Maybe you should." "No," I interrupted. "I've done enough." Because that's the thing they never understood. They thought I was weak because I kept giving. But the truth, I was strong enough to finally stop. And once I did, they collapsed under the weight of their own entitlement. Meanwhile, my life finally began. I bought my own place, a modest but beautiful condo, fully paid, fully mine. The peace inside those walls was indescribable. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't living for anyone else's survival. I traveled for the first time. Real travel. Not canceled plans or family emergencies. Iceland, Italy, Japan. I stood beneath the northern lights, breathing in crisp air that no longer carried the stench of guilt. Therapy became my anchor. I unpacked years of emotional manipulation, guilt shaming, and financial servitude. My therapist once told me something that stayed with me. "You never had parents. You had leeches dressed as parents." And it was true. One message finally broke through the silence. A text from Madison's ex-boyfriend. "Dude, I know everything now. They never deserved you." "I'm sorry it took me so long to see it," I smiled reading it. Not out of vindication, but out of peace. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the villain. I was free. It's funny how silence used to terrify me. For years, silence meant the storm was coming. Another call, another crisis, another financial ambush wrapped in guilt and family obligations. Now silence feels like freedom. The weight that sat on my chest for years, gone. No more calls, no more screaming, no more begging, no more manipulation, just peace. I sit on my balcony every night now. My own place, my own money, my own choices. The skyline glows in front of me, a constant reminder that I survived them. I no longer feel anger. That was burned out long ago. What's left is clarity. For years, I was raised to believe my worth was tied to how much I could sacrifice for others. That loyalty meant bleeding for people who never once cared if I was okay. They called it family. But it was never love. It was business. A one-way transaction where I paid and they took. The most dangerous lie wasn't the forged documents. It wasn't the stolen money. It was the lie they whispered into my head from childhood. Good sons take care of their family no matter what. No, good sons don't become hostages. Good sons don't become bank accounts. Good sons don't lose themselves to people who only know how to consume. They thought cutting me would destroy me. Instead, cutting them saved me. The last message I ever got from my mother still sits unread in my inbox. "We didn't raise you to be this cold." And maybe she's right, because they didn't raise me at all. I raised myself, and for years I carried it without complaint, thinking that's what love looked like. They built their kingdom on my back. And when I finally stood up, their kingdom collapsed. Now I sleep without debt collectors chasing me, without last-minute emergencies draining my accounts, without fake birthday dinners that felt more like tax audits than family gatherings. I wake up, drink my coffee, and feel nothing but calm. And you know what? I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm free. If you ask me today what I regret, I'll tell you the same thing every time. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because I had to choose myself for once. I regret not walking away sooner, because the moment I chose myself, I won.